and good afternoon. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, joining you from eTurboNews in Honolulu, Hawaii, together with Dr. Peter Tarlow. He is in College Station. We're all home at this time, and since we always examine the weather, I can only say beautiful things today. It's a beautiful day outside. I just came back and walked a little bit along our shorelines here at Ala Moana Beach Park, and it's just stunning. People are in the water and having a good time. It's hardly any clouds, and so it's a good day to be in Hawaii. What about in College Station, Peter?
Well, of course, I think it's always a better day at this time of year to be in Hawaii than Texas, even though this is where I live, because the Texas summer can be brutal. Today, though, was a nicer day. We had a little bit of wind, and I don't think it went above 93, 94 degrees. So, excuse me. And so that's a pretty good day for Texas. Of course, the humidity is always here. You guys have humidity in the water. We have humidity in the air. But having said that, you know what? It's okay, because if it weren't for our weather, people from Texas wouldn't visit Hawaii. So one of the things I think that makes Hawaii so special is you do have eternal spring. And that's really makes it special, though you're probably bored with such wonderful weather every day.
Well, what is kind of strange in Hawaii, and for those that have traveled here, we have really two different weathers. And when we cross to the other side of our island, it may very well be raining right now. We don't know. And it's quite strange. This is all within like 20, 30 miles.
Yes.
The weather can be completely different here. And I think in Texas, you have
You have that on a big island where you have very dry and very wet on one side of the island and the other. So in Texas, we don't have change by geography, but often if you wait 5 minutes, you'll get a different weather system. So there's a saying here, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, you'll get something else. But despite all those changes, there's been lots going on in the world today. I think a really interesting topic is what's going on in New York City. New York City is the first place I know of in the United States where they have mandated that everyone has to have had a shot, a vaccine. Either it will be, I guess, Pfizer or Moderna. But the issue is the tourism industry is going through some crisis with that, because people are saying they don't want to bring their families to New York because they're little children, and the children, of course, have not been vaccinated. And so therefore they don't have proof of vaccination. So no one has figured out yet what's new. The mayor just announced it today. But I think that leads into the whole issue of, do you demand the local population be vaccinated, the tourist population be vaccinated, everyone be vaccinated? Is it people under 2, like on an airplane, don't have to be vaccinated? Or we say under 12 don't have to be vaccinated? So I don't have the answer to it yet, but this is a big discussion that's been going on in the world of tourism today.
Well, no, of course, it's kind of logical. I mean, if children are not vaccinated everywhere in the world and shouldn't be part of this regulation, I cannot imagine New York is different than the rest of the world, because this has been going on in Europe for quite some time. Only people that are vaccinated or can show a test not older than, in Germany, it's 48 hours, are actually allowed to go into a restaurant or even sit outside in a restaurant. So it's really nothing new. And of course, it doesn't include children. So hopefully, sometimes these things, I think, are planned too quick. And,
yes.
And part of it is overlooked.
So in Germany, if you're a tourist, you have to show a vaccination card.
It's anyone. It's nothing to do with tourism. If you wanted to go to a restaurant, you either have to show a vaccination card or a valid test. And you can get these tests on every street corner, basically.
Yeah.
All
well,
over.
You can't do that in New York. So the problem is, also in the United States, you don't have an official vaccination card. You know, people go to CVS or Walgreens or wherever, and that made a lot of sense because we got the vaccine out to lots of people in a huge country very quickly. But now the issue is that people are talking about falsified vaccine cards. Are they real? Are they not real? How do we know they're real? And so that's a real issue now that's starting to take place, because if you need those vaccine cards to have kind of like a green passport, it's something that will allow you to go into restaurants and into shows or theaters or stores, will that will that become a problem? The other problem is that the lowest group of people in the United States who have been vaccinated are the minorities, especially in the Black community, because they've had so much information about don't trust the government, and many of those people have chosen not to get vaccinated. And does that mean now they can't go? Are they now totally isolated? So is this now? There's some people saying this is a racist policy.
Well, I really disagree with you here, because I think it is also maybe it's a situation you should see. You shouldn't. I mean, in order to have your own freedom, you cannot limit someone else's freedom, and this is really happening here with people that are not vaccinated. They limit freedom of people who are vaccinated and went through this procedure only because they're stubborn. If there's a medical excuse, yeah, I think there should be regulation to excuse people from getting vaccinated if there's a medical reason for them not to.
So you would have so in your policy, you would have a card that says that you have a medical excuse not to be vaccinated.
Exactly.
Would you still be able to then go into a restaurant or into a hotel?
Well, with the test, I think you should be able to do that. And tests are not really, even a quick test is not that impossible to do and to get. And I know, again, in Europe, many establishments, even restaurants and hotels, give you this test right at the front desk. It's like what they do here. They pick your temperature and there you get a test. And 5 minutes later, it's there. It happened in Mexico. When I went to Mexico, you check in before you're even allowed to the check-in desk. And before you enter the lobby, you get a quick test. And 5 minutes later, you're...
Now, we know that the temperature tests really don't show anything. I mean, they just kind of feel good to make you feel good, but it doesn't. You can have COVID with a temperature, without a temperature, so that's kind of a silly test. Now a COVID test obviously is more accurate. The problem is that the United States is different from Europe because it has a large number of minorities, and many of those people are afraid of being vaccinated. So now you have this huge issue going on, and the tourism industry is in the middle of it. And I don't have the answer. I want to make it clear, but I do think this is going to be an issue that people are going to be talking about a lot. And just like we're having the huge issue of will the schools open or not, which implies on tourism, because if the schools allow people to travel or not travel, and if the schools aren't open, how will that impact the tourism industry in the month of September or October? So these are they're interconnected issues.
Yeah, no, and I fully understand it's a complicated issue, but it doesn't really have to be that complicated. It just has to make logical sense, and has to be effective to protect people. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
The other side of that is when we tell people they have to wear masks, and then they are, even if they've been vaccinated, then the issue is people are saying, well, then why do I need the vaccine? In other words, so we have a PR issue here. And this is something the tourism industry is also trying to deal with. And you've been on planes, I've been on planes. I've had flight attendants say to me, bring your loosest mask possible, because that way, but I'm saying, well, if the mask is that loose, so it won't bother me, what protection is it giving me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we don't really know all the ins and outs in this situation. I think we all have to learn from each other. There are always going to be cheaters, people who want to be smarter than the system. Sometimes they succeed, but that's not going to be the cause of thousands and thousands of people getting COVID. But it is, of course, a situation that is existing.
Well, of course, in the world, there's the other issue, which is not only do you have, of course, interestingly enough, in COVID, while the cases have gone up, in most places, the deaths have remained flat or actually gone down. What has gone up, though, at least in the United States, is mortality from crime. So, for example, you've had 2 people die in Baltimore, but 40 people die from violence. And so part of now the question is, what's really more deadly? Is it COVID, or is it the violence that's somewhat out of control in many parts of the world? And that's, another issue, because violence impacts tourism. And if we have, New York is having terrible problems. As you know, Washington had shootings right in the middle of the city. And that's leading people to be fearful of going to restaurants. They're not sitting in outdoor places in some of the nicest parts of Washington. People are afraid to go to Chicago, has lost conventions. San Francisco has lost a huge number of conventions, all because of people's fear, not of COVID, but of violence and crime that's out of control. And so, which is the worst disease, or how do we control one with the other?
Yeah, and of course, violence is something what usually emerges out of desperation, I would think. I mean, people are desperate, and people have frustration is also can cause violence, I guess, and people are frustrated with the situation. So, let's hope everything is falling into place again, and because tourism is a people-to-people business, and we need to get back to the basics, I think, in many cases.
Yes, I do. On the other hand, the tourism industry does not control the world. Maybe it would be nice if it did. But, when we talk about peace through tourism, which is a wonderful, slogan and idea, the problem is that there's so many extraneous factors that are touching the tourism world that it doesn't control. And interestingly enough, we know from criminology that crime tends to increase often when the economy increases, not the other way around. And so that becomes another issue. The lowest period of crime in the United States was right after the October crash of 1929. The 1930s had the lowest crime rates of any time in American history. And those are the times of the highest levels of desperation. So we have a really interesting phenomena here. But if we don't have good economies, people aren't going to travel. And right now, you got a really interesting phenomena. The stock market's doing very well. On the other hand, there's huge inflation around the world, not only in the United States, but in many countries around the world. Prices have become very expensive. And then that leads to a new fear. If prices continue to rise, do I waste, quote unquote, in quote, do I waste my money on a trip, or do I need to save that money so that I have food for my children? And those are real issues that the tourism industry is going to have to face. And how do we have price controls in tourism?
Yeah,
Or do we keep a free market?
Yeah, I mean, the whole free market situation in tourism, of course, is it really a free market anymore? If you look at the amount of money the government has been given to airlines, if it was really
tremendous.
I mean, we would have to spend $5,000 to fly from Houston to New York, maybe, So
yeah.
It's the free market has been influenced by the situation, and I think we need to get back into a free market calculation once we get back on track. But it's definitely not an open market as we
No. And of course, it's produced a lot of anger on the part of one of the things we're seeing is violence in airplanes. And part of that is people are really angry at the airline companies. That is, they feel they've gotten a lot of money and they haven't used that money wisely. And of course, some of the executives are giving themselves huge raises. And so that's kind of a problem. And of course, today in the tourism world, at least in the United States, as you know, what was it? 700 flights were canceled on Spirit Airlines, if I'm not mistaken, and 500 on American Airlines. And those people are sitting in airports angry. There's some people who have been trying to travel from Sunday. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and they still haven't gone on a flight. We'd be better off renting a car and driving the 3,000 miles across the United States. So you can imagine how angry these people are. And the excuse was that we are having technical challenges. I don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means. What do you mean you're having tech? Tell me the truth.
And sometimes the truth is not what people hear because they have legal consequences. You know, and it's the cases when the airline is responsible, for example, to pay for your hotel, and there are other cases where the airline is not responsible to pay for
Right.
your. So they will probably most likely twist it if there's room to twist it.
Oh, absolutely. And I had an incident recently where my plane kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. I did get to where I needed to go, but I was supposed to be there at 9 o'clock in the evening. I got there 1:30 in the morning. I had to be up the next morning. It was a business trip, which meant that I had 4 hours of sleep. And yet I couldn't get the airline to tell me the truth. There was always another, well, we're cleaning it. Well, you're not cleaning the airline for 2 hours. And so what happens is then you lose credibility because people know these are not true statements. And that only creates a higher level of anger. And that anger is unfortunately taken out on people who have nothing to do with it, such as the flight attendants. They're just as upset as the passengers, and yet there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, I know, and also now a lot of people, not only in the airline business, also in the hospitality business, have changed jobs because they lost their job during COVID. And there are not enough people. I can see it here in Hawaii. Literally every place you go to, there's help wanted. We don't have enough people to really work this huge industry. What is
That's universal. It's you don't have enough restaurants, cooks in restaurants, servers, even here in College Station, where many of the restaurants have one guy cooking and one guy serving the entire restaurant. And they tell people, we're really sorry. We know our service is not up to par, but we can't get anybody else to work. And this is because of the government giving out too much money, or people just don't want to work, or they can't be trained. I mean, there could be many reasons for this. But that's a real problem. And then the other problem, of course, is you have both in Europe and the United States, people who are not really in the places legally. And so you have a illegal migration going from into Southern Europe that goes throughout the EU, and of course on our border. And in both cases, that creates even more confusion. And now the problem of illegal immigration in COVID, which is a very big problem. As you know, on the southern border, COVID cases have gone up by 900%. And so that's really tragic.
Yeah. I mean, another issue is cybersecurity. We had an article today in eTurboNews about the misuse of passwords in the hospitality business. What is a problem? And people that are in a position of accessing sensitive information that could violate someone's privacy if they get into the wrong hand, or worse, could take money from people if they get into the wrong hand. Many times thieves get into these systems in guessing passwords. And here the 10 we published the 10 most used passwords in the hospitality industry, like 123456, or the company name 123, or the company name with an asterisk, or hello 123. These are all passwords. They're used over and over and over again by thousands and 10,000. So it's not that hard to guess.
And if any of our listeners are hearing you, please do not use those passwords.
Yeah, and they're better system. There are now everyone has a phone these days, and you can have a two-way authentication in order to get into something. It's very easy. It's very secure. So I think in the world of cyber security, there is a lot we need to do. And I know, Peter, you teach this, right?
Yes. One of the big problems is not so much the individual being stolen, but ransomware. And for example, in the hospitality industry, in a number of places, hotels have lost control of their entire electronic system. Of course, your key is electronic. And so thieves are able to get in and either lock the door so nobody can get into their room, or even more chaotically, they can't get out of their room. And then, of course, people become furious. They're storming the front desk. The hotel management often doesn't know what to do. And, people have very little patience. And then they end up paying the ransom, which only encourages more ransomware. So there's that's a big issue around the world. That's not just in the United States or Europe. That's every place. And that's not a lockdown. That's a lockout.
Yeah.
But it,
And ransomware is definitely an issue. What is doesn't surface that often because exactly what it is, it's ransomware. You're not supposed to tell anyone, and people don't want to, and companies often don't say this
right.
because they're embarrassed, but
Yeah.
it is a
Well,
problem.
on top of that, it's not good for business. In other words, no hotel wants to say all of our guests were locked out of their rooms for 2 hours. I mean, that's a problem. So the way you handle it is you keep quiet, you pay the ransom, and you hope to bring back normality. And you figure the loss of $10,000 or $50,000 is less than the public relations nightmare that you're going to have. But that again only encourages more that's taking place. And one of the things I really encourage people is really work with good IT people and find people who can really protect you on multiple levels. You need more than one level of protection. And that, by the way, is true not only of hotels and airlines. And, you wonder what has grounded all these planes in the United States. Was that a cyber attack? We don't know. They
We don't
say,
we
you
don't
know, and so, but it very well could be a cyber attack. We saw that there were problems like that with Delta Airlines last year, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 years ago. And I think United and uh, American Airlines had the same issue. I'm sure there are issues like that in Europe and in other parts of the world. And as fast as we develop cybersecurity, somebody's finding a way of breaking in and coming up with a new hack job.
Yeah, this world has changed, and the thing is, the cybersecurity and these hack jobs, they can be done from anywhere.
Right.
So a person can sit in a completely different country or continent, and they can steal from you. So this has has become a very interconnected world, and different. You don't have to physically be at a place to steal anymore. You just
Right.
have to know the passwords.
So we have the world where we have an interconnected world on one level, but in the other world, because of cyber and I'm sorry, because of COVID and crime and violence, we're having a world that's more and more isolated. So we are interconnected virtually, but disconnected physically. I wonder how healthy that is as for the world, and maybe that's going to be the challenge for the next decade: is figure out how to connect people both virtually and also physically.
And that's what we're doing here. As of next week, we're actually inviting you, these you who's watching us right now, to be part of our audience. And we're going to do this once or twice a week at two different times on two different dates. We'll be announcing this shortly, where you can actually become part of our audience and you can talk to Peter and myself about issues that are prominent during the day. We're really excited to expand our audience. We've been
Yes.
testing this now, and it looks like a lot of people like what we're doing. We didn't get a lot of criticism, so I thought, it's good to expand it and get
Yeah,
everyone.
no, and people hopefully can express their views and they can fight with us a little bit because that makes for interesting viewing. So we don't want to all agree all the time. It's really important that we bring in different viewpoints. Tourism is all about bringing people together and being able to express different viewpoints when yet you come together. So I think that'll be next week, that's going to be a really exciting thing to do.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and just stay tuned for some announcement. And for those that missed the beginning of this live broadcast, just come back to the same screen a little bit later, and we're going to repeat it, or you can go to livestream.travel, or better to our YouTube channel. It's linked from all our pages at eTurboNews, and you can watch not only this broadcast, but also many others before, including many of the sessions we had over the last year with World Tourism Network and different guests from all over the world.
Well, I think that's a good way for us to end for this evening. So you have a great afternoon, and I am looking forward to having a great evening, and I will speak to you tomorrow.
Okay, now good night from here, good morning,
And
or
good afternoon from here.
and
Bye-bye. Enjoy the Hawaiian weather.
Thank you, Peter. You have a good night.
Police transporting COVID-19 patients. Nong Pru Police Station in Pattaya, Thailand, has reassigned its prisoners transport vehicle to emergency transport of COVID-19 patients, adding more resources to an ambulance system overrun with critical calls. COVID-19 cases are surging in Pattaya with over 300 reported today, Tuesday, August 3, 2021. Hospital ambulances and vans have been running nearly around the clock transporting critically ill COVID-19 patients. Police are responding to those awaiting hospital beds and transporting them when they become available. With daily coronavirus cases in Pattaya surging above 300 today, Tuesday, August 3, 2021, police officers have now begun transporting the sick to Banglamung Hospital. Hospital ambulances and vans operated by the Saong Borabun Thamasathan Foundation have been running nearly around the clock transporting critically ill COVID-19 patients and those waiting for beds. Nong Pru Police Chief Paul Colonel Chiteka Songhong and Paul Lieutenant Colonel Kangsart Nuan Pong responded yesterday, August 2, to Winton Village on Nong Krabak Swatan, where a 71-year-old woman gasping for breath had been waiting for a bed at Banglamung Hospital. One finally opened that day. Banglamung District, including Pattaya, reported 314 new coronavirus cases on Tuesday as Chonburi hit another record with 1,359 infections. Pattaya reopening slim to none. With high infection rates and a shortage of vaccines, the chance of Pattaya reopening is slim to say the least. The Chonburi Tourism Council revealed that Pattaya intends to postpone its reopening plan because Thailand may not be able to control the high rate of infections and provide sufficient vaccinations until the fourth quarter of the year. Council Acting President Thanat Suporn Sahasrangsi said tourism operators have acknowledged that the plan to reopen 2 districts to international tourists in September may be delayed, as the country grapples with a severe vaccine shortage during the third wave of COVID-19, which began to affect the reopening schemes in Phuket and Samui last week. He said Pattaya might not be able to open as scheduled if the province cannot build herd immunity by the deadline, adding that the situation in Pattaya is similar to the Andaman Islands, particularly with local tourists being restricted by the lockdown order. Mr. Thanat said that even though Phuket has reopened to vaccinated foreigners, stringent preventive measures and weak demand in the early stages mean many shops, restaurants and entertainment venues remain closed, which is discouraging travelers from considering an excursion to Thailand. In Phuket, tourism leaders at a recent Phuket Sandbox Summit urged European governments to recognize Phuket's status as a safe haven for international travelers.
Bahamas Ministry of Tourism and Aviation statement on updated testing protocols. As part of the Bahamas' continued efforts to provide a safe and healthy island experience for everyone to enjoy, new testing requirements have been announced for persons applying for a Bahamas travel health visa to enter the Bahamas or travel inter-island within the Bahamas. All fully vaccinated travelers will be required to obtain a negative COVID-19 test taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of arrival to the Bahamas. The same testing applies for inter-island travel within the Bahamas. Guests on cruises that originate in and return to the Bahamas must still apply for a Bahamas travel health visa and follow the new testing requirements for vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals. Effective Friday, August 6, 2021, the following protocols will take effect: entering the Bahamas from other countries, all fully vaccinated travelers, as well as children ages to 11, will be required to obtain a negative COVID-19 test, either a rapid antigen test or PCR test, taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of arrival to the Bahamas. Unvaccinated travelers ages 12 and older must still obtain a negative COVID-19 PCR test taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of arrival. All children under the age of 2 are exempt from any testing requirements. Traveling inter-island within the Bahamas from the following islands: Nassau and Paradise Island, Grand Bahama, Bimini, Exuma, Abaco, and North and South Eleuthera, including Harbor Island, all fully vaccinated persons, as well as children ages to 11, wishing to travel within the Bahamas will be required to obtain a negative COVID-19 test, either a rapid antigen test or PCR test, taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of travel. Unvaccinated persons ages 12 and older must still obtain a negative COVID-19 PCR test taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of travel. All children under the age of 2 are exempt from any testing requirements. Cruise passengers. Guests on cruises that originate in and return to the Bahamas must still apply for a Bahamas travel health visa and follow the new testing requirements for vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals. Vaccinated persons must provide a negative PCR test or rapid antigen test taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of arrival to the Bahamas. Unvaccinated persons are required to obtain a negative PCR test taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of arrival to the Bahamas. All travelers entering the Bahamas on cruises that originate in the U.S. will be subjected to the testing requirements mandated by the cruise line and approved by the government of the Bahamas. Cruise lines may have different requirements for vaccinated and unvaccinated guests. Travelers should check with their cruise line for specific details pertaining to their cruise. The new testing protocols are for all travelers applying for a Bahamas travel health visa from Friday, August 6, and onward. These protocols will be waived for any person with imminent travel who has already applied for and obtained a Bahamas travel health visa. For full details, please visit bahamas.com. Travel updates. Number rebuilding travel. Sandals Resorts International opens bookings for entry into romantic Curaçao. Sandals Resorts International, SRI, unveils new details for its flagship brand's highly anticipated 16th resort and the company's first venture into Curaçao, the newly named Sandals Royal Curaçao. Open for bookings today, the brand is offering guests a special grand opening offer with savings of up to $1,000. Resort debuts as Sandals Royal Curaçao, offers limited time savings and unveils plans for several SANDALS firsts. Sandals Royal Curaçao sits on an exclusive 3,000-acre protected preserve. Here, couples will discover the beauty and geographic diversity of Curaçao, known for its adventurous terrain, pristine beaches, limestone caves and vibrant capital city Willemstad, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Situated on 44 acres within the Santa Barbara Private Estate, an exclusive 3,000-acre protected preserve, Sandals Royal Curaçao will authentically intertwine natural world wonders, desert, ocean, mountains, and shoreline with the resort experience. Here, couples will discover the beauty and geographic diversity of Curaçao, known for its adventurous terrain, pristine beaches, limestone caves and vibrant capital city Willemstad, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, while still indulging in the luxury-included vacation experience Sandals Resorts is renowned for. Slated to open April 14, 2022, Sandals Royal Curaçao is conveniently located just 15 miles from the airport. Its admirable west-facing position captures the allure of one of the Caribbean's most spectacular sunsets, offering guests a visual treat. With 351 luxurious rooms and suites in 24 room categories, Sandals Royal Curaçao will have more all-inclusive luxury options than ever before, including 2 new signature suite categories, the Agua Seaside Butler Bungalows and Curacao Island Poolside Butler Bungalows, complete with tranquility soaking tubs, private pools, butler service, and sporty and stylish convertible Mini Coopers complimentary for guests to drive while exploring the island. A place of discovery and exploration. SRI's executive chairman, Adam Stewart, says that apart from the new destination, the sheer size of the private preserve surrounding Sandals Royal Curaçao will allow for new guest adventures. At Sandals Royal Curaçao, guests will also be able to hike, bike and pick up a picnic basket to fuel days of discovery and exploration. Pure romance. And they can continue this adventurous spirit beyond our gates, where they will find a world-class destination of great restaurants, fascinating locals, fine art, and visitors from all over the world. We have invested in $72 million in enhancements and improvements to complete the sandalization process of this already stunning property, and we can't wait for our guests to be in awe," said Stewart. Sandals Royal Curaçao will be home to the brand's first Dosawa infinity pool with views overlooking the sea and the rugged mountain landscape, and the Duchess, Sandals' first ever floating restaurant and bar, constructed from a 92-foot authentic Dutch ship. With 9 on-site 5-star global gourmet restaurants, 8 of which are new and exclusive to Sandals Royal Curaçao, guests will indulge in international flavors from a melting pot of global cuisine, including an authentic wine and Dutch cheese bar. Couples can also dine on the go at 3 new beachside gourmet food trucks offering traditional Curaçao fare, Spanish tapas, and Asian fusion, or grab a drink at any of the resort's 10 unique bars. Sandals Royal Curaçao will carry on the brand's reputation as an authority in romance with 3 oceanfront wedding venues. The resort will also feature a luxurious red lane spa with 6 outdoor spa cabanas and treatment rooms, expansive pools, access to the neighboring 18-hole PTI Championship golf course, 38,000 square feet of indoor and outdoor meeting space, the largest on the island, 2 on-site marinas and 70 dive sites, ideally suited for guests looking to join the more than 100,000 divers who have earned PADI certification through the resort company already. Ready, set, sell. According to Gary Sadler, Executive Vice President, Global SALES and Industry Relations for Unique Vacations Inc. UV, an affiliate of the worldwide representative of Sandals Resorts, guests who book a stay at Sandals Royal Curaçao now through November 2, 2021, will receive a special grand opening offer with savings of up to $1,000. Sandals Select Rewards guests will also share in this savings and can receive additional exclusive perks with their choice of a $200 Island Routes Tour credit, $200 Red Lane Spa credit, 5,000 instant Sandals Select Rewards loyalty points, or a PADI Discover Scuba Diving experience for TWO, $200 value when booking a stay of 6 nights or more today through August 5, 2021. We are thrilled to make this truly remarkable resort available for bookings and to introduce Curaçao to new audiences that we know will be captivated by its beauty, the warmth of its people and the destination's irrepressible energy. We are certain our partners will love selling this hotel," said Sadler. Introductory rates at Sandals Royal Curaçao start at $341 per person per night, and butler category rates start at $538 per person per night, based on double occupancy and a 7-night stay. For more information, visit www.sandals.com. To learn more about what to expect while staying at Sandals Royal Curaçao, read this blog here, www.sandals.com. Sandals Resorts. Sandals Resorts offers 2 people in love the most romantic, luxury-included vacation experience in the Caribbean. With 16 stunning beachfront settings in Jamaica, Antigua, St. Lucia, the Bahamas, Barbados, Grenada, and Curaçao opening April 14, 2022, Sandals Resorts offers more quality inclusions than any other resort company on the planet. Signature Love Nest Butler Suites for the ultimate in privacy and service. Butlers trained by the Guild of Professional English Butlers. The Red Lane Spa. 5-star global gourmet dining, ensuring top-shelf liquor, premium wines, and gourmet specialty restaurants. Aqua centers with expert PADI certification and training. Fast Wi-Fi from beach to bedroom, and Sandals customizable weddings are all Sandals Resorts exclusives. Sandals Resorts guarantees guests peace of mind from arrival to departure with the Sandals Platinum protocols of cleanliness, the company's enhanced health and safety measures designed to give guests the utmost confidence when vacationing in the Caribbean. Sandals Resorts is part of family-owned Sandals Resorts International, SRI, founded by the late Gordon Butch Stewart, which includes beaches resorts and is the Caribbean's leading all-inclusive resort company. For more information about the Sandals Resorts luxury-included difference, visit www.sandals.com. Rowdy Frontier Airlines passenger duct-taped to seat. Frontier Airlines released a statement alleging that the man had punched 1 male flight attendant and groped 2 female flight attendants. passenger was starting to get aggressive and basically attacked the male flight attendant. Unruly passenger was yelling about his parents being rich and having $2 million. Frontier suspended the crew for duct taping the passenger to his seat as they landed in Miami. Frontier Airlines launched an investigation into a mid-air incident with unruly passenger being subdued by the crew. Rowdy Frontier Airlines passenger duct taped to seat. A video of an out-of-control passenger being duct-taped to his seat mid-flight after allegedly punching and groping flight attendants has gone viral on social media, and that has prompted the airline to investigate. The video made waves on Tuesday as it found its way onto social media. In the clip, a flight attendant can be seen taping a passenger to their seat, even placing the tape across their mouth, while others on the plane cheer. Frontier Airlines released a statement about the incident, alleging that the man had punched one male flight attendant and groped two female flight attendants. During a flight from Philadelphia to Miami on July 31, a passenger made inappropriate physical contact with a flight attendant and subsequently physically assaulted another flight attendant, the airline said in a statement. As a result, the passenger needed to be restrained until the flight landed in Miami and law enforcement arrived. The passenger, Maxwell Barry, was taken into custody by Miami police and is facing 3 counts of battery. Barry, 22, allegedly brushed a cup along a flight attendant's backside and later emerged from the bathroom shirtless, requiring staff to find him a new shirt and his luggage. Barry later groped 2 female attendants' chests and punched a male flight attendant in the face, police say. The footage was quickly and widely spread on social media, with few showing sympathy for the restrained passenger. In a separate video allegedly featuring Barry, he is yelling about his parents being rich and having $2 million. Despite the public support for the flight attendants, Frontier has suspended them from flying duties until a full investigation can be conducted. The flight attendants will be, as required in such circumstances, relieved of flying pending completion of investigation of the events, the airline said. Raging wildfires are still out of control in Turkey, Greece, Italy, and Spain. COVID and earthquakes is adding to an ever-increasing fire emergency. Recently, eTurboNews reported about wildfires raging in the Antalya region in Turkey. For the last few days, fires were raging, not only in Turkey, but now also in Greece, Italy, and Spain. This is in addition to earthquakes in Turkey and Greece and an increase in COVID-19 infections. Not the Kurds as assumed by some leaders in Turkey, climate change is guilty. This is a serious warning triggered by an abused nature. Hundreds were evacuated from beach resorts and homes in regions also trying to come back for tourism. This is the 6th day with hundreds of people evacuated in Greece, Italy, and Spain, with hundreds evacuated from beach resorts and homes. The death toll from Turkey's fires rose to 8 after 2 more people died on Sunday in Manavgat. Fires in the town had already claimed the lives of 5 and 1 person in the resort Marmaris. Turkey is suffering its worst fires in at least a decade, with nearly 95,000 hectares burned so far as a blistering heatwave covers the Mediterranean. Most of the 112 or so fires that have erupted in Turkey alone over the past 5 days have been contained, with firefighters focusing their effort in Manavgat, Marmaris, and Milas. Turkish authorities investigating the cause of the fires named Kurdish militants or arson by children, but since fires are now not only spreading in Turkey, but numerous southern European countries, the issue is more likely related to climate change. In Pescara, Italy, 800 people were evacuated from their homes and beach resorts after a fire broke out in a 53-acre nature reserve. The country's National Fire Service said it was called to more than 800 emergencies. 250 fire emergencies were counted in 250, 130 in Puglia and Calabria, 90 in Lazip and 70 in Campania. In Sicily, 200 people were evacuated from the port city of Catania. In Greece, a fire broke out over the weekend in Patras, along the western coast. 5 villages were evacuated, and 8 people were hospitalized for respiratory problems and burns. Firefighters battled through the night to contain a blaze on the holiday island of Rhodes. Rhodes, the largest of Greece's Dodecanese islands, is known for its beach resorts, ancient ruins, and remnants of its occupation by the Knights of St. John during the Crusades. The city of Rhodes has an old town featuring the medieval Street of the Knights and the castle-like Palace of the Grand Masters. Captured by the Ottomans and then held by the Italians, the palace is now a history museum. Planes and helicopters dropped water over the fires in Maritza and Sinthos, in the northern regions, whilst reinforcement was expected on Monday morning. A tourist tweeted the airplanes stopped about 3 hours ago to pull water from the ocean. So I guess the fire has gone. Today they flew all 8 minutes over our hotel. Thanks to all the firefighters and helpers. Twitter.com. We're living in hell. The mayor of Bodrum. It's not possible to put down the fires from the ground, and it's too late to use firefighter planes or helicopters. We're trying to protect residential areas. But we can do nothing to save the trees. Raging fires in Europe and Turkey. At Solingerid at Timur Soykan tweeted, "This is a terror fire attack on forests. So many fires started simultaneously at the same time. Thanks to the great effort, we'll keep them under control, but may take some more time in some areas. If they stop giving up the fire again and again, no doubt the damage will be recovered." In residential areas outside of Athens, houses are burning. The situation on the Greek holiday island of Kos and Rhodes is desperate, another tweeter said, and added, "All in the midst of heat wave of 45 centigrade, COVID, and earthquakes." From Greece, a post says, "The entirety of Greece is burning. North Athens, Rhodes, the fires are out of control. Please pray for Greece." A reader in Athens added, "In the northern part of Athens, the fire is due to an explosion in high-tension cables. There are also fires in the south of Peloponnesus, in Rhodes, in Kos, and in other parts of Greece due to the extreme heat." How are things going in Spain? Wildfires in Spain burned a total of 81,194 hectares in 2019. Local authorities reported 10,717 fires, of which 3,544 were bigger than 1 hectare. This includes 14 major wildfires that affected more than 500 hectares each. Hospitality industry's cybersecurity is full of holes. Data breaches can create a domino effect across multiple organizations through the reuse of credentials across personal and business accounts. Hospitality industry companies have only 29% of unique passwords. Password reuse is a huge problem that poses a big threat. If one password is compromised, all other accounts are jeopardized too. Hospitality industry employees struggle with passwords, new industry report reveals. Among the 17 researched industries, hospitality industry employees used their company's name as a password the most often. Instead of coming up with a sophisticated password to safeguard their business accounts, people simply put their company name as their password. Hospitality industry's cybersecurity is full of holes. In addition to that, hospitality industry companies have only 29% of unique passwords. This means that more than 2/3 of employees reuse their passwords across accounts. Password reuse is a huge problem that poses a big threat to both consumers and businesses. If one password is compromised, all other accounts are jeopardized too, security experts warn. The research also revealed the top 10 most common passwords used by hospitality industry employees. Shockingly, the most common one is password. Here are the top 10 passwords in the hospitality industry. Password 123,456 company name 123 company name HELLO 123 company name 1 company name name 1. The researchers analyzed data from public third-party breaches that affected Fortune 500 companies. In total, the analyzed data included 15,603,438 breaches and was categorized into 17 different industries. The researchers looked into the top 10 passwords used in each industry, the percentile of unique passwords, and the number of data breaches affecting each industry. Weak passwords are one of the top causes of data breaches in business. According to the latest data, people are eager to travel, and 47% of people are planning to travel within their own country. With the rising domestic and international travel, the hospitality industry must once again pay closer attention to cybersecurity. Simple passwords are very dangerous to all users, but businesses and their employees need to take extra care when it comes to cybersecurity. For example, back in February, a water treatment facility in Florida had a serious computer breach. The company used an unsupported version of Windows with no firewall and shared the same TeamViewer password among its employees. And, in December 2020, SolarWinds suffered from a big data breach, reportedly due to protecting one of their servers with the PASSWORDSOLARWINDS-123. How can businesses increase their password hygiene? Create complex and unique passwords, update them regularly, and store them in a password manager. Adopting a password manager for company-wide use is your best bet to maintain the security of your business accounts. A password management solution provides a secure way to store, share, and manage passwords in a single place. 2. Use multi-factor authentication or single sign-on. Companies should use multi-factor authentication where possible for an added layer of security. Another great idea is to leverage single sign-on and password synchronization. With single sign-on, employees are less likely to revert to bad password practices, such as creating common passwords or writing them down. 3. Educate your employees on password hygiene and potential risks. It's important to note that employees should avoid mixing their work and personal accounts. This ensures that your personal identity is not only protected, but also any information related to your employer is safeguarded in the event of a breach. Consumer-facing breaches can extend beyond personal accounts, potentially exposing the enterprise as well. Data breaches like this can create a domino effect across multiple organizations through the reuse of credentials across personal and business accounts. Aer Lingus resumes Dublin flights from Budapest Airport. Irish flag carrier is welcoming customers back on board its flights between Budapest and Dublin for the first time since the pandemic began. Aer Lingus restores Budapest-Dublin Airlink. Aer Lingus will operate a 3 times weekly service on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Aer Lingus's return will boost Budapest's market by nearly 2,500 monthly seats. Last week saw Budapest Airport witness the return of its long-standing partner Aer Lingus. Serving the Hungarian gateway since 2004, the Irish flag carrier is welcoming customers back on board its flights between Budapest and Dublin for the first time since the pandemic began. Aer Lingus resumes Dublin flights from Budapest Airport. Aer Lingus will operate a 3 times weekly service to Ireland's largest city on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Using its fleet of A320s on the 1,912 km sector, the airline will boost Budapest's market by nearly 2,500 monthly seats. Balazs Bogots, head of airline development, Budapest Airport comments, "Every airline to return to our tarmac is a reason to celebrate and a sign of our movement forward." Aer Lingus's resumed schedule of links to the Irish capital makes for a perfect long weekend to a destination renowned for its culture and welcoming nature. Peter O'Neill, CU, Aer Lingus says, "We are delighted to recommence flights from Budapest and welcome back customers on board now that travel restrictions have been relaxed." O'Neill adds, "We are delighted to once again be able to do what we do best for more customers: deliver safe international travel." Airline industry, 2020 was worst year on record. At the depth of the crisis in April 2020, 66% of the world's commercial air transport fleet was grounded as governments closed borders or imposed strict quarantines. 1.8 billion passengers flew in 2020, a decrease of 60.2% compared to the 4.5 billion who flew in 2019. Industry-wide air travel demand, measured in revenue passenger kilometers, or RPKs, dropped by 65.9% year-on-year. The decline in air passengers transported in 2020 was the largest recorded since global RPKs started being tracked around 1950. The International Air Transport Association and IATA released the IATA World Air Transport Statistics Watts publication with performance figures for 2020 demonstrating the devastating effects on global air transport during the year of the COVID-19 crisis. Airline industry, 2020 was worst year on record. 1.8 billion passengers flew in 2020, a decrease of 60.2% compared to the 4.5 billion who flew in 2019. Industry-wide air travel demand, measured in revenue passenger kilometers, or RPKs, dropped by 65.9% year-on-year. International passenger demand (RPKs) decreased by 75.6% compared to the year prior. Domestic air passenger demand (RPKs) dropped by 48.8% compared to 2019. Air connectivity declined by more than half in 2020, with the number of routes connecting airports falling dramatically at the outset of the crisis and was down more than 60% year-on-year in April 2020. Total industry passenger revenues fell by 69% to $189 billion in 2020, and net losses were $126.4 billion in total. The decline in air passengers transported in 2020 was the largest recorded since global RPKs started being tracked around 1950. 2020 was a year that we'd all like to forget. But analyzing the performance statistics for the year reveals an amazing story of perseverance. At the depth of the crisis in April 2020, 66% of the world's commercial air transport fleet was grounded as governments closed borders or imposed strict quarantines. 1 million jobs disappeared. And industry losses for the year totaled $126 billion. Many governments recognized aviation's critical contributions and provided financial lifelines and other forms of support. But it was the rapid actions by airlines and the commitment of our people that saw the airline industry through the most difficult year in its history, said Willie Walsh, IATA's Director General. Key 2020 airline performance figures from Watts, passenger. System-wide, airlines carried 1.8 billion passengers on scheduled services, a decrease of 60.2% over 2019 on average. There was a $71.7 loss incurred per passenger in 2020, corresponding to net losses of $126.4 billion in total measured in ASKs, available seat kilometers. Global airline capacity plummeted by 56.7%, with international capacity being hit the hardest with a reduction of 68.3%. System-wide passenger load factor dropped to 65.1% in 2020, compared to 82.5% the year prior. The Middle East region suffered the largest proportion of loss for passenger traffic, with a drop of 71.5% in RPKs versus 2019, followed by EUROP, minus 69.7%, and the Africa region, minus 68.5%. China became the largest domestic market in 2020 for the first time on record, as air travel rebounded faster in their domestic market following their efforts to control COVID-19. The regional rankings, based on total passengers carried on scheduled services by airlines registered in that region, are Asia Pacific, 780.7 million passengers, a decrease of 53.4% compared to the region's passengers in 2019. North America, 401.7 million passengers, down 60.8% over 2019. Europe, the 389.9 million passengers, down 67.4% over 2019. Latin America, 123.6 million passengers, down 60.6% over 2019. Middle East, 76.8 million passengers, a decrease of 67.6% over 2019. Africa, 34.3 million passengers, down 65.7% over 2019. The top 5 airlines ranked by total scheduled passenger kilometers flown were 1. American Airlines, 124 billion, 2. China Southern Airlines, 110.7 billion, 3. Delta Airlines, 106.5 billion, 4. United Airlines, 100.2 billion, 5. China Eastern Airlines, 88.7 billion. The top 5 route areas by passenger demand (RPKs), with the largest drop being seen in routes within the Far East. 1. Within EUROP, 290.3 million, down 70.7% from 2019. 2. Europe North AMERICA, 122.9 million, decreased 80.4% from 2019. 3. Within Far East, 117.3 million, a decrease of 84.1% from 2019. 4. Europe Far East, 115.3 million, a decrease of 79% from 2019. 5. Middle East Far East, 104 million, down 73.6% from 2019. The top 5 domestic passenger airport pairs were all in Asia and outperformed top international routes as domestic recovery returned faster, particularly in China. Jeju Seoul GIMPO, 10.2 million, up 35.1% over 2019, to Hanoi Ho Chi Minh City, 5.9 million, an increase of 54.3% from 2019, 3 Shanghai Hongqiao SHENZHEN, 3.7 million, up 43.4% from 2019, 4 Beijing Capital Shanghai HONGQIAO, 3.6 million, increased by 11.8% from 2019, 5 Guangzhou Shanghai HONGQIAO, 3.5 million, up 41.2% from 2019. The top 5 nationalities traveling by AIR International were 1 United States, 45.7 million, or 9.7% of all passengers, 2 United Kingdom, 40.8 million, or 8.6% of all passengers, 3 GERMANY, 30.8 million, or 6.5% of all passengers, 4 France, 23.3 million, or 4.9% of all passengers, 5 INDIA, 17.4 million, or 3.7% of all passengers. Cargo. Air freight was the bright spot in air transport for 2020 as the market adapted to keep goods moving, including vaccines, personal protective equipment, PPE, and vital medical supplies, despite the massive drop in capacity from the bellies of passenger aircraft. Industry-wide available cargo ton ACTKs fell 21.4% year-on-year in 2020. This led to a capacity crunch, with the industry-wide cargo load factor up 7.0 percentage points to 53.8%. This is the highest value in the IATA series started in 1990. At the end of the year, industry-wide cargo ton CTKs had returned close to pre-crisis values. However, the yearly decline in cargo demand CTKs was still the largest since the global financial crisis in 2009, at a sizable 9.7% year-on-year in 2020. The top 5 airlines ranked by scheduled cargo ton CTKs flown were 1 Federally XPRASS, 19.7 billion, 2 United Parcel SERVICE, 14.4 billion, 3 Qatar AIRWAYS, 13.7 billion, 4 AMIRATES, 9.6 billion, 5 Cathay Pacific AIRWAYS, 8.1 billion. Airline alliances. Star Alliance maintained its position as the largest airline alliance in 2020 with 18.7% of total scheduled TRAFFIC in RPKs, followed by SKYTEAM, 16.3%, NONEWORLD, 12.7%. Airline industry, 2020 was worst year on record. At the depth of the crisis in April 2020, 66% of the world's commercial air transport fleet was grounded as governments closed borders or imposed strict quarantines. 1.8 billion passengers flew in 2020, a decrease of 60.2% compared to the 4.5 billion who flew in 2019. Industry-wide air travel demand, measured in revenue passenger kilometers, or RPKs, dropped by 65.9% year-on-year. The decline in air passengers transported in 2020 was the largest recorded since global RPKs started being tracked around 1950. The International Air Transport IATA released the IATA World Air Transport STATICS publication with performance figures for 2020 demonstrating the devastating effects on global air transport during the year of the COVID-19 crisis. Airline industry, 2020 was worst year on record. 1.8 billion passengers flew in 2020, a decrease of 60.2% compared to the 4.5 billion who flew in 2019. Industry-wide air travel demand, measured in revenue passenger kilometers, or RPKs, dropped by 65.9% year-on-year. International passenger demand, RPKs, decreased by 75.6% compared to the year prior. Domestic air passenger demand, RPKs, dropped by 48.8% compared to 2019. Air connectivity declined by more than half in 2020, with the number of routes connecting airports falling dramatically at the outset of the crisis, and was down more than 60% year-on-year in April 2020. Total industry passenger revenues fell by 69% to $189 billion in 2020, and net losses were $126.4 billion in total. The decline in air passengers transported in 2020 was the largest recorded since global RPKs started being tracked around 1950. 2020 was a year that we'd all like to forget. But analyzing the performance statistics for the year reveals an amazing story of perseverance. At the depth of the crisis in April 2020, 66% of the world's commercial air transport fleet was grounded as governments closed borders or imposed strict quarantines. 1 million jobs disappeared. And industry losses for the year totaled $126 billion. Many governments recognized aviation's critical contributions and provided financial lifelines and other forms of support. But it was the rapid actions by airlines and the commitment of our people that saw the airline industry through the most difficult year in its history, said Willie Walsh, IATA's Director General. Key 2020 airline performance figures from Watts, passenger. System-wide, airlines carried 1.8 billion passengers on scheduled services, a decrease of 60.2% over 2019 on average. There was a $71.7 loss incurred per passenger in 2020, corresponding to net losses of $126.4 billion in total measured in ASKs, available seat kilometers. Global airline capacity plummeted by 56.7%, with international capacity being hit the hardest with a reduction of 68.3%. System-wide passenger load factor dropped to 65.1% in 2020, compared to 82.5% the year prior. The Middle East region suffered the largest proportion of loss for passenger traffic, with a drop of 71.5% in RPKs versus 2019, followed by EUROP, minus 69.7%, and the Africa region, minus 68.5%. China became the largest domestic market in 2020 for the first time on record, as air travel rebounded faster in their domestic market following their efforts to control COVID-19. The regional rankings, based on total passengers carried on scheduled services by airlines registered in that region, are Asia Pacific, 780.7 million passengers, a decrease of 53.4% compared to the region's passengers in 2019. North America, 401.7 million passengers, down 60.8% over 2019. Europe, the 389.9 million passengers, down 67.4% over 2019. Latin America, 123.6 million passengers, down 60.6% over 2019. Middle East, 76.8 million passengers, a decrease of 67.6% over 2019. Africa, 34.3 million passengers, down 65.7% over 2019. The top 5 airlines ranked by total scheduled passenger kilometers flown were 1. American Airlines, 124 billion, 2. China Southern Airlines, 110.7 billion, 3. Delta Airlines, 106.5 billion, 4. United Airlines, 100.2 billion, 5. China Eastern Airlines, 88.7 billion. The top 5 route areas by passenger demand RPKs, with the largest drop being seen in routes within the Far East. 1. Within EUROP, 290.3 million, down 70.7% from 2019. 2. Europe North AMERICA, 122.9 million, decreased 80.4% from 2019. 3. Within Far East, 117.3 million, a decrease of 84.1% from 2019. 4. Europe Far East, 115.3 million, a decrease of 79% from 2019. 5. Middle East Far East, 104 million, down 73.6% from 2019. The top 5 domestic passenger airport pairs were all in Asia and outperformed top international routes as domestic recovery returned faster, particularly in China. Jeju Seoul GIMPO, 10.2 million, up 35.1% over 2019. 2. Hanoi Ho Chi Minh CITY, 5.9 million, an increase of 54.3% from 2019. 3. Shanghai Hongqiao SHENZHEN, 3.7 million, up 43.4% from 2019. For Beijing capital Shanghai HONGQIAO, 3.6 million, increased by 11.8% from 2019. 5 Guangzhou Shanghai HONGQIAO, 3.5 million, up 41.2% from 2019. The top 5 nationalities traveling by AIR International were 1 United States, 45.7 million, or 9.7% of all passengers, 2 United Kingdom, 40.8 million, or 8.6% of all passengers, 3 GERMANY, 30.8 million, or 6.5% of all passengers, 4 France, 23.3 million, or 4.9% of all passengers, 5 INDIA, 17.4 million, or 3.7% of all passengers. Cargo. Air freight was the bright spot in air transport for 2020 as the market adapted to keep goods moving, including vaccines, personal protective equipment, PPE, and vital medical supplies, despite the massive drop in capacity from the bellies of passenger aircraft. Industry-wide available cargo ton ACTKs fell 21.4% year-on-year in 2020. This led to a capacity crunch, with the industry-wide cargo load factor up 7.0 percentage points to 53.8%. This is the highest value in the IATA series started in 1990. At the end of the year, industry-wide cargo ton CTKs had returned close to pre-crisis values. However, the yearly decline in cargo demand CTKs was still the largest since the global financial crisis in 2009, at a sizable 9.7% year-on-year in 2020. The top 5 airlines ranked by scheduled cargo ton CTKs flown were 1 Federally XPRASS, 19.7 billion, 2 United Parcel SERVICE, 14.4 billion, 3 Qatar AIRWAYS, 13.7 billion, 4 AMIRATES, 9.6 billion, 5 Cathay Pacific AIRWAYS, 8.1 billion. Airline alliances. Star Alliance maintained its position as the largest airline alliance in 2020 with 18.7% of total scheduled TRAFFIC in RPKs, followed by SKYTEAM, 16.3%, NONEWORLD, 12.7%. Moscow Sheremetyevo named the most punctual airport in Europe. Sheremetyevo was the first airport in Russia to develop and implement a system of joint decision-making with airlines, using its own innovative synchron database. Sheremetyevo is among the top 5 airport hubs in Europe. Sheremetyevo is the largest Russian airport in terms of passenger and cargo traffic. In 2020, Sheremetyevo served 19,784,000 passengers. Moscow's Sheremetyevo International Airport was recognized as the most punctual airport in Europe and the second most punctual in the world in the global airports category. Moscow Sheremetyevo named the most punctual airport in Europe. Thanks to effective cooperation between the airport, airlines and air traffic control agencies, the Sheremetyevo aerodrome has maintained high capacity and ensured a high level of punctuality of flights. Sheremetyevo was the first airport in Russia to develop and implement a system of joint decision-making with airlines, using its own innovative synchron database. The most punctual air carriers at Sheremetyevo in May and June 2021, based on landings, departures from the parking area and takeoffs, were Russian Airlines, Aeroflot Russia Severstal. European airlines with more than 200 passenger flights, Air France KLM Air Serbia. European airlines with less than 200 passenger flights, Finnairlot Belavia. Asia Pacific Airlines, Japan Airlines Korean Air Air India. Airlines with more than 500 cargo flights, Aviastar Aeroflot Air Brigga Cargo. Airlines with fewer than 500 cargo flights, Air China Emirates Cargo Logic Germany.